Okay, hi everybody, and welcome to our webinar. I'm going to kick us off. Today we are going to be discussing IT change management with a live customer interview with Cardinal Health. Before I get started, I do need to cover some housekeeping items. Please check out the tabs with resources at the bottom of your screen there. And if you do have a question, please submit it in the Ask a Question tab. We're going to be doing a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. And final note is that the on-demand version of the webinar will be sent out to everyone after the webinar, and it'll also be available on our website. But now we can kick it off. So today, I'm going to start us off by first introducing the pain of IT change management today is very real for a lot of our customers and for a lot of enterprises out there trying to solve this problem. So we're going to talk about what that looks like, as well as how BigPanda is set up to really resolve some of those issues. From there, we're going to dive into the real joy of our webinar today, which is getting to interview with Albert Wong, a customer who has lived this experience. And so it'll be really exciting. Please have some great questions for him as well. And we'll close out with how you can get started as well. So I myself, I sit on the product marketing team at BigPanda. I work very closely with our change risk management products. And Albert Wong, he is a senior engineer at Cardinal Health. He also has been working closely with BigPanda for years, I believe since 2017, as he said.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to start us off by first acknowledging the reality of most enterprises today when it comes to a change request workflow. More often than not, a change is filed late, missing details, or it's even filed by an engineer who knows how to work the system so that they can submit just enough information to get that change approved. And then once the change is submitted, the review process is manual, the risk and impact are not clear, and there isn't any historical information to reference. And yet there are also hundreds of other changes just like this for the CAB to review, leading to lots of fatigue and then approvals happening, which then there's no feedback loop, mistakes happen, and then incidents begin. This workflow is really manual and time consuming. Gathering the right context for this, for each change, it can take upwards of an hour. And it's so difficult for our customers. The pain here is very real, not only for our CABs, which have very senior members joining them. We hear many stories from our customers about the amount of times that CAB has to meet each week, the hours involved. And then after all of that time being spent, supposedly low risk changes are still the ones that are causing the incidents. We have so many stories about this, about how painful this process is. And so what's really exciting is that what BigPanda is able to do here is we're able to automate this process, taking this very time-consuming manual risk assessment, automating it, and delivering really critical information within seconds. And so CABs now have the right information to make more informed decisions. And we're doing that through our change risk management features. So change risk management is BigPanda's AI-powered change risk analysis tool. And the secret behind it is its ability to unify vast amounts of data across your organization's services, ITSM, observability tools, and all of this context enables the tool to give a more accurate risk assessment. It surfaces all of that information to give you a more accurate impact of the change. It automatically pulls in historical information based on similar changes, services, or incidents. And it also provides really clear suggested mitigation steps for engineers or change managers to lower that risk threshold. All of this is because of that context it has access to and why we're able to deliver such an accurate risk assessment. And the result of this is that cabs are more informed when making decisions. And there's fewer incidents overall because we're preventing the highly risky changes. Cabs are now focusing on the ones that are only truly high risk, and the low risk changes are then automating and going through with confidence that they're not going to cause an incident. Also, change owners and engineers are empowered to move faster with this level of context so they can then proactively themselves minimize change related risks and outages. Now, the results that we're seeing from our customers that are using the tool have been really exciting. We recently launched a report, the business value of BigPanda platform, where we saw some of our customers, they are preventing at least 1.9 million of annual revenue loss due to major incidents, all because we are stopping these change related incidents. Customers are able to reduce their operational costs because we don't have those repeat incidents. We're minimizing SME effort. We're speeding up the cab reviews. There's just less time being spent on this process in general. And we're also protecting revenue by really identifying the risk patterns, and that helps reduce the rollbacks and change related incidents. And then when your SMEs stay focused, the business keeps moving forward. They get to work on high priority projects because you now have clear risk guidelines in place and a review process that can truly scale with your business. So that is my whole spiel on what the product is, what the experience that Cardinal Health has been having as well with BigPanda. And so I want to jump into our interview with Albert. Just a quick intro is Cardinal Health is a large enterprise healthcare company. It's a distributor of pharmaceuticals, specialty products, really with a focus on customer-centric. And it drives continuous innovation to really help improve people's lives. I mentioned this in the beginning that Cardinal Health has been a longtime BigPanda customer, starting with using our core BigPanda platform. They've also been early adopters of our AI Incident Assistant, or Biggie, product, as well as change risk management. Cardinal Health was in fact so early, they were a part of our early beta program and really helped. Their feedback was integral to helping build out the product and really helping it succeed. And so they've been incredible partners from the very beginning. So Albert, if you don't mind sharing really quickly about your role and how you work with BigPanda.
Yeah, sure. So I'm part of Cardinal's event management and observability team. So we own the tools that help monitor our entire environment, and one of the pivotal ones is BigPanda. We use it as our primary event management tool. We had migrated from IBM NetCool, I want to say around 2017, and we've just really gotten a great deal of value with the core BigPanda tool. It was exciting to hear for sure when we were approached early on about some of the new offerings involving AI, because obviously we're familiar with AI ML as part of BigPanda core, but then taking it to the next level in terms of IT operations, we were pretty excited when we were approached to be a design partner specifically for Biggie as well as the change risk management product. So it's been a great journey so far, a lot of great collaboration between us and BigPanda, and we're kind of excited to see where we can take this.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, switching here, we can get off our slides. So I first would really like to give our viewers an understanding of, in general, how Cardinal Health approaches change management. So if you could share, why does IT change management matter to Cardinal Health?
Yeah, for sure. Change management is vital, right? It really can lead to the success or failure of an organization, right? Like being able to understand and assess the risk of a change. How do we avoid change related impacts and outages? How do we quickly find the failures that were caused by changes? And how do I identify all these opportunities for better collaboration amongst the teams in the organization, right?
Absolutely. Now, are there ways that you can measure success or failure with your program that are helpful?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of interesting metrics that we would generally like to capture, but things as like the number of change-related impacting events, understanding the percentage of successful changes versus percentage of changes that did cause an impact or an outage. We want to capture the metrics that allow us to fully understand, one, the type of changes, how are we executing them, how long does it take for us to execute them, are we properly scoping and scheduling changes. Is a team submitting a 2-hour change window versus a team that's submitting a 30-day change window, right? Like, what is a really effective change management process, right? Like, is that something that we want to encourage or discourage, right? Why are teams, deciding to submit a 30-day change? Are they actually properly following proper change management principles? These are things that like really come up, routinely on a week to week basis, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when changes just are known to cause so many incidents. So it's really important to show how you're tracking it. And I think it's fantastic. What was your process prior to Big Panda?
So prior to BigPanda, as you can imagine, as a, a large organization, we have a lot of distribution centers and warehouses located across the globe. Um, we are multi-cloud vendor. We also have some on-prem things. So prior to BigPanda, you can imagine there's hundreds and hundreds of changes on a per weekly basis, right? So the process is really exporting out of ServiceNow, which is our primary tool for our change controls, exporting them out into an Excel, reading through changes, trying to figure out if the changes were properly scoped, trying to figure out changes were possibly missing any important details, taking into account a team's change credit score. Historically, have they been successful or have they been poor in executing? And then overall, trying to determine what changes could potentially be riskier or things that we actually needed to scrutinize and focus and spend our time on, right? We had to rely a lot on human judgment to self-classify a risk. I can submit a change and oh, drop down, risk low, submit it, right? Like, you know what I mean? So, how do we truly assess the overall risk and impact when, humans are kind of doing their own, judgment, right? How can we really get down to what the actual risk is? And really the motivation for us is, let's reduce the number of impacts and outages that were change related. And, also as a byproduct of that, how do we empower our change managers to quickly find and focus on those higher risk changes and kind of reduce your manual toil, right? Because you mentioned earlier, hours and hours of cab meetings, right? Like, there's, 50, 75, 100 people on these bridge lines, right? Waiting to speak up. Maybe there are changes that we don't need to care about or don't need to speak up, but there are definitely changes that we do need to surface for the entire organization, or there are changes that we really need to scrutinize because, something doesn't feel right, you know?
Yes, absolutely. And doing that through Excel, that's tough.
Yeah,
All running that
yeah,
through Excel, that's pretty tough. That's manual. Yeah.
yeah.
So now that you have access to change risk management, so how does Cardinal Health use the tool today?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a great tool to help automatically evaluate and identify those change controls that we do need to do a deeper dive and really surface that increase awareness across the organization, right? Like what changes do actually have a higher risk, or what mitigations can be used to reduce the risk, and when are we needed to escalate, and when do we really need to, really deep dive into a change. Like the tool is able to surface that for us, through a dashboard, through pure visualizations versus having to comb through rows and rows of an Excel spreadsheet.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah, the prioritization is really key just because it results in
Right.
less time spent on like, are these low risk? Is it truly low
Right.
risk? Is it truly high risk? So,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, can you speak at all about how your strategy has changed now that you have access to this technology and you're automating the process and you have more insights? Has that changed your strategy at all?
Yeah, I would say overall our strategy has not changed, but having access to the technology really has been an enabler to give us a much more accurate data-driven assessment of changes versus relying on human judgment, both the submitter of the change as well as our change managers, right? The technology is really going to help us evolve our overall understanding and assessment of our own internal organizational risks, right? There are standard changes, but then there's changes that we have to apply some criteria that maybe are very specific to Cardinal, right? And how do we better refine and improve on how we calculate and determine the appropriate risk level?
Yes, totally. Um, and I will also say you had a pretty well established strategy with metrics tracking, really, really fantastic strategy before heading into or using some of the technology as well. So now it just amplifies what you're already doing there. Is there any standout functionality of the tool that you really like?
Yeah, I mean, there's been really a great number of features of the tool, like the visualizations, that's really been helpful. And it, a lot of interesting data points that it kind of comes up with that identifies. But really for us, it's that ability for us to input our own organizational risk criteria, right?
Mhm.
It's, you have your historical risks, which it already takes into account, where it looks at prior changes that have been implemented by a team. If it's the same type of changes, it evaluates whether it's been successful or not, and it uses that to kind of evaluate the risk. But there are certain things that are very specific to our environment, right? Like there's certain high priority hours for our warehouses that need to operate that may not be normal US business hours, right? Like there are high volume hours where we have to take care of products, right? So being able to specify a lot of organizational specific risk criteria and then being able to use that to help determine the overall like risk factor, right? That's been really a really cool feature to use, and it's allowing us to really get a better, assessment of risk, but it's also allowing us to really, empower us to find interesting behaviors of both of our teams, both good and bad. And it's definitely allowing us to free up our change managers from the manual toil that they've been, having to go through when assessing these things. So, the organizational risk criteria has definitely been a really cool feature for us.
And I'll also make a note that that was a really key piece of feedback from Cardinal Health in the early beta program to allowing to have that specificity within the risk criteria. So just making it hyper tailored to the organization, eventually to teams. And so really exciting to see it and that you're loving it as well.
Yeah.
Do you have an example where an incident was prevented using change risk management?
So some of the examples would be more of like when things are submitted and changes that are not properly scoped or they're missing vital details. There's like certain forms. I'm sure, every customer has their own change form. But there's certain details that we require as a change, and one of them is an implementation plan. And somebody can submit a change, they check the box off that there's an implementation plan, provided, but there actually isn't anything attached to the change itself, right? You can imagine, trying to comb through that and figure that out. You can't really do that with an export into Excel. You can't tell if there was an attachment to a change or not, right? But, through the change risk management technology, it's able to evaluate the change. It's able to see if there's an attachment. So it's able to surface things that are missing that kind of helps prevent us, from going down that path.
Yeah, and that would be you can customize that within the org specific risk.
Exactly. There's definitely, certain things like, if they check the box that you can't roll back, or they've checked the box that, they haven't been able to test, prior to this, right? Those are high risk factors, right? And those are things that say, oh, we need to pay attention to these, right? Because if they've never done it before, or they don't have a way to actually roll it back, we really need to know about that, and we really need to dig in here and come to terms with what this change is actually trying to do, and hopefully put enough mitigations around it so that we avoid any change impacts.
Yeah, and this is such a great example as well of, I mean, speaking about, okay, maybe this is a person that hasn't submitted a change before, or you're talking about identifying the teams that are doing good versus bad. This is a really key example of showing, okay, we're setting up guardrails here of you need to have an implementation plan, and it really does make it more proactive for the change owner, for the engineer submitting it, so that they can go forward and just start running faster. And they know what to expect. You're going to get caught, for lack of a better word there. But everyone starts to pick up the pace from there. And it's really fantastic to hear this real world example of it
Yeah,
work.
for sure. And one of the features of the change risk is that it does allow you to automate a feedback loop directly into the change. So one of the nice features that we're starting to dive into is being able to provide that feedback directly in the change work notes, so that it frees up our change managers from having to nag the folks, hey, by the way, this isn't there. They can auto-correct the change themselves in time for our cab meetings, right? So so we're looking into that capability right now today, but the feature is there. So we're just evaluating how we want to socialize it to the organization, how to be prepared to understand that, hey, you need to pay attention, right? And being able to automatically provide that feedback at in near real time is really great.
Yeah, definitely. Really exciting to hear. I can't wait to see how the rollout goes as well. Okay, my final question for you is, has it changed any of your program goals? Are you able to achieve things now that you weren't able to achieve prior?
I would say that it hasn't necessarily changed our program goals, but it's really made us a much more effective and much more accurate in implementing our changes, right? We're using the technology to really help drive better human behavior as it pertains to implementing changes, right? And, you know, we're allowing our change managers to be hyper focused, right? And reducing a lot of the toil, and it frees them up to be hyper focused, so that we're paying attention to the things we really need to pay attention to.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's a fantastic place to end our formal interview questions. If anyone on the call or on the webinar today does have any additional questions for either Albert or myself on how the product works, or just how Cardinal Health is using it, please submit those. In the meantime, while we're waiting for any to come in, I wanted to just talk quickly about how you can get started today if you want to see a product demo of change risk management in action. Please reach out through our website. We're also going to be following up with the webinar recording as well as resources, so you can also absolutely respond to that email as well if you're looking for more information. But let's see. I don't see. I don't see any questions coming through, probably because we did such a thorough interview. With that, Albert, it's been so fantastic. I want to just say thank you to you for running the BigPanda show, for Cardinal Health, and for just being integral with providing huge or valuable customer feedback. It's truly been a great partnership, and we appreciate you sharing your experience and Cardinal Health's experience as well.
Well, thanks for having me, and it really has been a great partnership from the beginning. So we're looking forward to maintaining the momentum and moving forward.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. And we will talk to you soon.
Okay, thanks.